The story, the book I chose is Through My Eyes by Ruby Bridges. The articles and interviews are compiled and edited by Margot Lindell. Ruby is an American civil rights activist. She was the first African-American child to desegregate the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis in 1960. I selected this book because it's an Orbis Pictus 2000 winner, and I just thought it looked interesting. A summary of the book. What did segregation in the 1960s feel like for a 6-year-old girl? Ruby Bridges shares her autobiography from birth to adulthood. She explains what it was like in Louisiana being one of the first African-American children to desegregate the all-white William Frantz public school. Federal marshals escorted the girl into the school day after day, while protesters of all ages screamed slurs at the girl and others. The parents in the area refused to send their children to school, and the few that did were harassed and even lost their jobs. Ruby spent her entire first year of school with Miss Henry. She became very close to her, especially being her only child in the class. After that year, she finished out her schooling in William Frantz and later graduated from another integrated high school. In the 1990s, her brother Milton passed away from a drug-related shooting. This inspired her to volunteer at William Frantz, where his kids went. She created the Ruby Bridges Foundation to help children at William Frantz have an equal opportunity. It created quality programs such as multicultural arts, ballet, African dance, and even etiquette classes. She wanted to make a difference in inner city schools so that all children have access to quality education. She describes how, as a child, it was hard to understand why she had to struggle through these things alone, but now she feels that it was her faith that carried her through and helped her be a part of something bigger. She wasn't prepared for the interviews, the books, the movies, or the fame. She trusted in God to help her be ready to be a person that she never thought she would be, a symbol of integration in the South. I think the appropriate age for this book would probably be around 10 years old. Just the topic of desegregation and some of the strong language in the book, I think, would make it more appropriate for that age group. 5 interesting things. One of the most interesting things I found, which I never really knew, was she was the subject for Norman Rockwell's famous painting, The Problem We All Live With. Another interesting thing is author John Steinbeck, right here in the book. He wrote a book called Travels with Charlie, and in that book he depicts what took place the day she entered the school, and he never used her name because it was kept quiet to protect her and her family, but later found out it was about her. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote Ruby a personal note, which her mother really cherished. A lot of people sent her family gifts and presents and even money when her father lost his job by sending his child to a all-white school. Another interesting fact I thought was interesting is the protesters were so relentless they threw eggs, rocks, and even threatened anyone that supported integration. They held even like a casket with like a black doll in it. They threatened Ruby to the point where one lady threatened to poison her and she was afraid to eat at school. Here's a picture of some of the protesters. Ruby's first year of school was actually about integration, but what I found most interesting is she spent the entire year alone with her teacher, so she never really interacted with students, not even for recess, not even for lunch. The book's category of nonfiction is factual because it's an autobiography of Ruby's life, which features quotes from famous people as well as photos. The structure of the book is narrative. The organization pattern is descriptive because it describes her life from birth to adulthood, as she's still alive. The book contains many organization tools, such as headings that describe each section of the book, which I'll show here. See, this one's about when she goes home. Here's another one, the first day at William Frantz, and it has pictures to show. The book's really big, so it's hard to show exactly. Here's another one, my first white teacher, and that's a picture of her and her teacher. Another heading. Riots in New Orleans during that time. Here's another one, A Week of Trouble, and it shows all of the protesters. These are students protesting. Let's see. Another organization tool is a note about the author that someone wrote about Ruby in the beginning of the book, shown right here. And it also includes a timeline of historical events. I just gotta find what page it's on. Here it is. So here are some of the major events of the Civil Rights Movement. And then it's also, there's when Ruby, it shows when Ruby first went into her school. The book also contains many historical photographs on each page containing quotes and captions, and I think that keeps the readers engaged. The text enhances my understanding of desegregation by providing insight from a woman that lived through it. It was interesting to see how she felt as a young child having to deal with adult issues. It shows how racism is something that children are taught, and something that Ruby didn't fully understand as a 6-year-old girl. She describes in the book that she never realized that the issue was the color of her skin, at least not for a while. I would recommend this book because I think it explains a historical issue like integration of schools and how it affected a child. The photos help make the event feel more tangible for children that never had experienced these kinds of events in their lifetime personally. Thank you.